Good morning. I'm back in the kitchen with JW Broadcast. I'm still into the November 2016 one. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. So at minute 9, he makes a shocking statement for the Watchtower. He says, "You can learn the truth by reading in the Bible." What? Is this new light? So, quote, he says, "So if we listen to Jesus and read in the Bible what he taught, we can learn the truth. Jesus was the personification of the truth." And he quotes John 14:6. We can find out what the truth is by diligently studying the Bible. That is why it is good to do daily Bible reading. But then, of course, right after that, he's going to go off on the faithful and discreet slave and how you definitely still need help. Now, this should be in Beliefs Clarified, because they have said before that you can't understand the Bible without the Watchtower. December 1st, 1981, very famous quote that people talk about: "Unless we are in touch with the channel of communication that God is using, we will not progress along the road to life, no matter how much Bible reading we do." July 1st, 1973, Watchtower: "Only this organization functions for Jehovah's purpose and his praise. To it alone, God's sacred word, the Bible, is not a sealed book." So I think maybe what they're doing is toning down the earlier statements like this. Of course, they still believe that, and they're going to get the members to believe that, but maybe are going to have less accountability or make them seem more mainstream in their process of rebranding by softening the way they say it, maybe. Then this is wild too. They do this all the time, though. I notice witnesses do it a lot when they talk. They talk about a lot. They talk about certain scriptures, and they add a lot of words and concepts into them, like words that are the Watchtower interpretations, and they act like they're quoting a verse. And you can go look at the verse, and it's really not there. Often not even in the context, really. So what Loesch says here at minute 10, at Matthew 24:45-47, we read that, "For the time of the end, Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body." So here he reads in, you cannot read the words "for the time of the end." That's an interpretive statement. But he's saying at Matthew 24:45-47, we read that for the time of the end, Jesus would appoint a faithful and discreet slave or governing body. Of course, the words governing body are not in there at all. This is interpretive. A very recent interpretation also, that they equate the governing body with the faithful and discreet slave. So he's making it seem like the word governing body is in there. I'm going to read two really amazing, helpful statements from JW Facts. If you want to, it's really worth reading his whole page on governing body. So the easiest way to find things on JW Facts is just put in Google JW Facts together, and then skip a space and type in governing body. And that way I can get to those pages, the particular one you want, so much faster. But he says here, whilst the term governing body, or even the concept of governing body in the format of the Watchtower Society, does not appear in the Bible, the 2013 edition of the New World Translation has unfaithfully added the term to its outline of contents, subconsciously making this appear to be a Bible concept. And then another thing he talks about that they do is, not only do they have that really new idea that the governing body is the faithful and discreet slave, they try to make you think that was thought by just the watch. Well, not only do they try to make you think that somehow that's very exactly like the time of the apostles and the Jerusalem Council, they try to make you think the Watchtowers held that view longer than they have. So I'm just reading another little paragraph from J.W. Fax. When introducing the new concept of a governing body that represents the faithful and discreet slave, the Watchtower 1971 made the claim that a governing body made its appearance after the 1884 formation of Zion's Watchtower Society. This backdating attempted to include Russell and the early leaders as part of the governing body. And then he talks about how they had a board of directors, and they actually didn't even use the term until the 1940s, maybe 1941. They called it board of directors. And then he talks about how their letters for governing body have morphed from small g, small b to capital GB, and the significance of that. It's kind of complicated to slog through that page, but it's really worth it. They just have to talk about themselves all the time. They remind me of a narcissist. Did you ever know anybody that they're the center of attention, they're the center of all conversation. They don't even notice that they never listen to anybody else or aren't really interested in anybody else. It always will come around back to themselves. No matter what you're talking about, they'll find some kind of tie-in. I was thinking about one of my good friends, Denise Hedberg, and I could probably post her channel in the comments. She doesn't do it as much anymore, but she used to have this series. I think it was a few years ago when she would watch the broadcast, and she would call it tally time, and she would mark down how many times they said governing body or faithful slave, and how many times they said Jesus and Satan. And it's really excellent. It just brings into focus how many times they talk about themselves. It really is their core doctrine. So then he says, of course, Jesus trusts the slave. Do you? So that's it for today.